That announcement is, I'm proud to say that myself and $7 Productions are gonna make a film about the life of one of your founding fathers, the pioneering founding fathers, the smashing machine, Mark Kerr.
It kind of got me fired up, you know. It's like, okay, I can get in there and just manhandle these people. Oh, trying to get out.
Friends, Power Chord Powerlifter here, and we are going to talk about the documentary The Smashing Machine, based on the career of MMA fighter Mark Kerr. I'm also going to do this because it's been announced that The Rock is going to be doing a movie about Mark Kerr and his career. So of course, this is going to come up again, this documentary. I actually have had my copy of it since the late 90s. Apparently it's very hard to get a hold of right now. But before we get going, a lot of you out there are probably thinking, who is Mark Kerr? Well, Mark Kerr, for those of you that aren't in the know, that weren't around either training or fans of MMA back in the 90s, when the UFC came out in the early days, back in 1994, the first few UFCs were dominated by Royce Gracie and Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, or as we also know it, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. But then after that, we started to have this stream of really high caliber wrestlers that came in. They started to do well, starting with Dan Severn, Mark Coleman, Randy Couture, Kevin Randleman, but then Mark Kerr. So Mark Kerr came along. He was an Olympic level wrestler pretty much, competed at the highest levels in amateur. He wrestled and competed against Kurt Angle, Randy Couture. But amateur wrestling doesn't pay a lot of money. It's hard to pay the bills. So he decided, like his friends, he would go into MMA to earn some money. And he did very well. Now, when wrestlers first came in, their style wasn't pretty to watch. It was basically ground and pound. Wasn't pretty, but it was effective. Their style was very effective because you go up against a top level wrestler, he's taking you down. There's no doubt about it. But with Mark Kerr, they called him the smashing machine. He had a way of taking down and controlling opponents. No matter who you were, Mark Kerr was going to take you down. It wasn't going to be pretty.
Fast double leg.
There's a knee. Oh, a couple of big knees. And a couple of right hands.
Mark Kerr, he won a few UFCs. He was getting popular. Then he went over to Pride in Japan because he was going to make a lot more money. When he was in Pride fighting the top competition, he did well for a period of time, and then all of a sudden his career took this weird turn and he started losing fights. And then he just kind of disappeared. For a lot of people, as in this documentary, who followed Mark Kerr around during this time in Pride, a lot of people put it to his drug addiction issues. Painkillers, alcohol, he had a lot of stuff going on, and they get into that in the documentary in a very deep method.
See, and you don't have any strong pain medication? Narcotics, like opiates or like...
No. Must what's it? Certification. So
they're showing some scenes you're going, wow, you know, like I remember seeing this 20 years ago going, I can't believe that they're putting that in a documentary. So there's a lot of focus on that, his addiction issues. Now for me, and this is going to upset a lot of people, I see another reason why Mark Kerr's career took a downturn. Mark Kerr had a partner. They had a nice home in Phoenix, Arizona, but there's a lot of weird things going on in their relationship. So you got to remember, at the time, Mark Kerr was one of the top paid MMA fighters in the world. He had to train. He had to do a lot of things to be able to compete at that level. So obviously, in a normal situation, the partner would be very supportive, thinking, hey, Mark, I'm going to support you because you're taking care of us, and the better you do, the better we're going to do, and because you're my partner and I love you and I want to see you succeed and I want to see you do the best you can and be happy. That is a normal thinking process, I think, for a relationship. This relationship he had with his partner was a little bit different. A lot of weird stuff was going on. There was a lot of turmoil. There was a lot of fighting. If you notice right off the bat, one of the things that's really weird is Mark Kerr's pretty isolated from his family. He even says, my partner is all I have right now.
I'm not close to my family right now. The closest person I am is to Dawn. And, you know, if that relationship doesn't exist on some level, I pretty much don't have any family.
Could be a sign of something. He says that she takes care of his money and all the finances. But it gets very interesting in the documentary. There's a part where he actually has to go into rehab. He gets into a lot of problems with his drug issues. He goes into rehab and she says, I like to drink. And I promised Mark that when he got out of rehab, I would quit drinking, I'd be done with it. And I didn't do it.
He needed me really bad when he was using. And now he's going to have a lot of people and influences in his life other than me. And it's going to require a lot of patience from me because I'm very jealous at times. I think he loves me, you know. I guess that's like my biggest fear. Is what if he realizes now that he's sober that he doesn't really love me like he thought he loved me. I've been in AA before for drinking. I was sober for about 1.5 years. I'll usually start at lunch and go meet my friends for lunch and start drinking there, and then go to happy hour, and then, you know, go change and then go out. And it's like an all-night thing.
You know, she just said, dude, listen, when you get out, I'm done. I'm not going to drink when I'm around you.
And I did make Mark a promise that I wouldn't drink when he was here, and I didn't keep my promise.
He also says in the video that his sobriety sponsor doesn't want him around her. He even says he's tired of all the fighting and tired of all the tension, and he just wants out of it.
My sponsor's pretty insistent about me getting away from Dawn because she's still drinking and using, and me being in the environment, it's just a matter of time. I just feel really uncomfortable in the relationship. I mean, continuously. A lot of fighting, a lot of arguing. You know, I want the hell out of this thing.
There's even an interesting part where he fights Igor Vovchanchin, and this is like his first really big noticeable loss here. You can tell that he's doped up. Sorry, Mark.
I don't recommend people bring their wives or girlfriends to the fights because you need to be extremely focused and keep the distractions to a minimum.
And she's there right beside him. You can tell that it's just weird. And Mark Coleman's there saying, you know, I've never been a fan of having my wife right there with me during my fights. Like, I got to focus on my fight and do what I have to do. I'm not a big fan of that. I don't recommend it. There just seems to be some weird boundary issues going on with this here. Even after his loss to Vovchanchin, then there's some admissions come out by both of them that he didn't train a lot, he partied a lot, they were drinking, doing all kinds of stuff. But then he reconnects with Bas Rutten. Now, come on, if you have any kind of background or any interest in martial arts, you know anything about the history of it, you know who Bas Rutten is.
Tsuyoshi Kosaka, and another knee. Rutten's taken over. Rutten's taken over. It's over. Rutten has won his UFC debut.
So he rehooks up with Bas Rutten. Bas Rutten gets him on track with his training, and he fights an extremely tough opponent in Pride, Ensign Inoue, and he wins. Very impressive. He came back from that loss and fought a very tough guy, and he won. Clear mind, train with Bas Rutten. When he's training with Bas for the next fight, which I believe is against Fujita, she shows up in the middle of their training, dressed very oddly, and her focus is, I need to know where Mark and I are at. I need to know what's going on in our relationship. It's a little weird. That's very unusual behavior. Sometimes you just have to step back and go, this is just unusual. Okay, normally you let the guy train, focus on the fight.
kicking the door, holding him out of his fight. You can't do that. You know, you have to be relaxed. If you're training and you have a lot of stress at home, so you can't sleep, that's bad. Then you don't want to go fight. They have to get separate, that's what I think, you know?
So tomorrow I was thinking I could train for an hour or something, and then just I gotta take off and start driving. Unbelievable.
Next week, what are you gonna do? Who's gonna do it for you?
I gotta figure it out.
I wish that he could stay until he leaves to Japan, because I think he needs that. I think he needs to push.
Trying to figure out where we're at with the relationship and where he's at emotionally and mentally.
So there's a scene, and you can see on Bas Rutten's face, like Mark Kerr's like, yeah, I got to kind of cut my training short. I got to go with her. We got to figure things out. And Bas Rutten's kind of like, well, dude, you got to kind of keep your training up before the fight. So anyway, and we all know how that ends. Mark loses his fight against Fujita. And it even culminates right before his fight, where they have a big incident in the house. So he had some pistols in his house for home defense. And they get into a big fight. And he even says, like, he had to call the police to get her out of the home.
And then escalated to a huge fight. Then from there, it just kept escalating. And she won't leave the house. 3 hours later, the only way I got her out of the house was to call the police. You know, the only way. I mean, in the process, she grabs she grabs my, thank God they weren't loaded. She grabbed my handguns under the nightstand, and, you know, then grabs a razor and starts gouging it into her arms and stuff. There's all kinds of crap.
Can you imagine you're supposed to be the best in the world at something, you're one of the highest paid athletes, and you're trying to train, and you have to deal with constant stress, drama, and bullshit in your own home like that? Who needs that? How can you expect him to do well? It's surprising how he did as well as he did with all the bullshit going on in his life. Now, I don't know Mark Kerr personally. I have friends that know him. I have acquaintances that have met him. And the consensus is all around, don't know him, so I can't say, but that he's a pretty nice guy. I feel that yes, Mark Kerr had injuries, he had pain issues, but I think part of it was all the stress in his house. He was also turning to the drugs, the alcohol, the painkillers, just as an escape to get away from all the stress as well. I don't mean to make people angry, I don't mean to make people upset, but if you have any type of insight when it comes to serious personality disorders, there's some weird stuff going on there. I feel personally, and this is all caught on camera, you can watch the documentary if you can get a hold of the DVD. It's pretty rare now, but I'm sure it's out there and you can get it. I've had my copy for years. With Mark Kerr, my heart goes out to the guy. It's amazing that he did as well as he did with what he was going through. I think the drugs and the addiction issues are a byproduct of what he was going through. The fighting, the pain, the training, but the constant stress at home. All the signs are there that something really weird's happening. So the documentary is amazing. It was great. I love it. If you have any interest in MMA, it's really worth watching. It takes it to a different level that a lot of these sports documentaries back in those days didn't go to. Now, I think it's probably a little different now. As sports documentaries have kind of gone on to new levels, I think it's a very incredible documentary. But I think, and I stand by what I say, I'm not trying to put anyone down or cause any problems or upsetting people. This is how I see it, and any of you out there who know anything or have any insight onto serious personality disorders, they're going to agree with me. So now, think about this. Can you imagine Mark Kerr, how well and how far he would have gone in MMA if he lived in a supportive household? If he had support, if he wasn't dealing with constant bullshit, stress, fighting, conflict, tension? Can you imagine how far he would have gone and how much more money he would have made as an MMA fighter? Hey, but what do I know? I would definitely give this one a big thumbs up. Probably one of the best sports documentaries I've seen in my lifetime, and I've seen quite a few. So I highly recommend it. It's great. Mark Kerr, I think he's probably going to get another round of popularity now that The Rock is going to play him in a movie, which is great too. He was an amazing athlete, and he deserves a whole bunch of recognition and to get a lot of credit. Those are my thoughts. That's what I think. So remember, friends don't let friends go catabolic, and we will see you next time.